Hello again, folks. I just wanted to talk to you about the Snow Peak Titanium French Press. And before we begin, I'd like to apologize for any noise you might hear, wind noise, things like that. We have a surprise windstorm moving in that's kind of upset the apple cart a bit. My apologies. So I picked this up for $55.95, and that is the manufacturer's suggested retail price for this. That's a bit steep, but cheaper than buying, say, a complete jet boil system and getting the French press adapter for it. And in the grand scheme of things, when the titanium mug from Snow Peak is about $45, I guess it isn't that terrible. It's a $10 step up. Loose in this stuff bag, it weighs 184 grams, which isn't bad. I mean, it's titanium, so it doesn't weigh a whole lot. It is a bit heavier than, say, a titanium mug from Snow Peak, but that's not bad, considering you've got a plunger and screens and stuff like that in there. It's really actually kind of worthwhile if you look at it. It's not such a bad thing. Now, when you open up the stuff bag here, you'll find the usual Snow Peak handles that fold flat against it, and they're held together with this molded titanium plate tack welded onto the side of the pot. Another great advantage is it has gradations down the side in imperial and metric, which is very good because I use metric when I deal with my coffee. Now, of course, it has the screen, and it's a decent quality screen. They actually did a little double roll on it to keep it from fraying out and causing splinters. Then there's a little rubber sealing edge to it too. I'm curious to see how it performs instead of the spring type one. Maybe it'll help keep debris out, maybe produce a less sludgy cup of coffee. Now there is, rolled into the edge here, a slight spout with, you can see a little bit of a footing on the spout below it. It might work well, but I'm skeptical it's going to pour perfectly. And then of course a little steam vent in the top of the lid here. Now when you push it down, it really makes a nice smooth transition. We'll see how it handles in the presence of water and coffee in there and what the pressure does for it, but I'm confident it's going to work well. Now let's just test it out and see if it makes a good cup of coffee. I have not yet had the chance to use it, so we're going to dive in and test this out. Now, one area I find myself frequently skeptical of when dealing with anything that has measurements stamped or cast into it is how accurate they are. So I have here 500 mils of water in my Nalgene. I trust Nalgene to be accurate, so that's where I'm using them as a benchmark. And let's just see how much it fills up in here. Oh, right on the line. That's fantastic. Now let's just test it out and see if it makes a good cup of coffee. I have not yet had the chance to use it, so we're going to dive in and test this out. So, the whole process of getting my Esbit cube started was just a complete clown show. With this wind, it kept blowing out the germ gel I was using to light it up.
Trying to raise some money for germ gel, eh?
Not necessary.
What?
I'm holding.
Oh, you're the best.
Which is my little hack for lighting a Esbit cube. And finally I had to relocate it over to a grill that's kind of out of the path of the wind, and I have that filming right now. But then on top of that, the French press is too narrow for my Esbit stove, so it kept falling through and I spilt some water. It was just great. It was a great experience. I wanted to go through my process here. In the French press, I have almost 500 mils of water heating up. It was 500 mils. I spilt some. It's probably closer to 475 by now. Additionally, I have my favorite medium roast coffee 30 grams of that. I have a mug to pour it into. I have a spoon to help stir and work with it. I follow the system that James Hoffman uses on his channel, and you should check it out. It's very effective. Makes a very good cup of coffee, and of course I let it go for about 5 minutes, just stirring and skimming, and then once it's done, I do the plunger down part way, and then pour it out. It works really well. It makes a really nice cup of coffee, and I'm looking forward to trying this one out.
Settlement.
The coffee's poured, and already I can see little particulate bits floating all over. Not a good sign. Grounds are lodged in the spout. Grounds made it up past the little rubber gasket. Things aren't looking so great. But let's give it a taste.
Settlement.
Literally just had to pick a piece of ground out of my mouth. Very over extracted. And I don't know, because I watched the time on it very closely. I don't know if it was maybe a thermal thing, like I couldn't get the temperature perfect, and because of that it extracted a lot of tannins. I don't know if it's just that free-floating bits were able to continue to contribute. I don't know, it's incredibly bitter and over-extracted. It definitely has a hint of that French press texture, the oiliness, the thickness, like pockets of dilute matter in this coffee just swimming around.
Little bit.
It's not good. It's really not good. On top of that, being titanium, I worry about this being able to maintain a functional temperature in the long term, and I think what I'm seeing here is just thermal trouble in general. I think it didn't get hot enough, which might have been my fault because I was using Esbit cubes instead of a proper stove. And I think it may have been just the fact that during extraction so much heat was radiating out of it into the atmosphere that you end up with it just below the ideal threshold, and you end up with just a really miserable cup of coffee. It's a shame because this coffee I picked out it's brilliant. It's by a local roaster and it tastes fantastic. But this particular is one of the worst cups of coffee I've ever made. I'm ashamed of this cup of coffee. And I'm sad because I really had high hopes. I was really wanted to give this thing a glowing review because I love Snow Peak and I love the idea of a French press. I mean, for a lightweight trip, I wouldn't use it. I had this whole notion that it'd be great for a short, low-distance trip where luxury is the key. But I gotta say, you can buy 5 packs of Alpine Start for the price of this and get better, consistent coffee out of it. And then on top of it, you don't have to pack out wet grounds and all the other refuse associated with it. It's just, I don't recommend this. I don't think it's a good French press. I don't think it's the way you should get coffee in the backcountry. It just, I'm afraid none of it just adds up. It's not good. I tried. I had high hopes. I'm sorry, little friend. It just isn't going to work out. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you stopping by. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Got to keep that algorithm happy. And let me know if there's any other coffee-related things you'd like me to try out for backpacking. I'd love to give it a spin. Until then, cheers, and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Ah, bah.